Hi guys, welcome to REDDOG.TV. This is Sting Red Dog here, bringing you a great surprise today. You may have seen on my Twitter feed that I was tweeting that I had a surprise for you, and it's finally here. Sorry it's a few days late. It was really tough editing and getting all this stuff together, but it's here, and that's the important part. So today I have with you part one of a team interview with the North American team that won the NSL Invitational Cup and is going to Cologne, Germany for the finals and is facing Archaea, and that would be Nexzil. So I have Bitey and Virsel from Nexzil here doing a team interview with me and my partner Nietzsche, and we had a whole bunch of fun. So this is part one of the interview. Part two will be up probably within a day or two. And I also have another surprise for you. I already have an interview done and completed with Archaea as well, and their thoughts going into the finals in Germany. So that is a very good interview too. You don't want to miss that. That should be out after the Archaea interviews. Again, this is part one of Red Dog TV's interview with Nexzil. Enjoy. Hello everyone and welcome to Red Dog TV. This is Sting Red Dog here. Joined with me is my partner Nietzsche. How you doing, man?
Doing pretty good today, man. How you doing?
Good, good, good. Well, guys, today we have a great treat for you. I have an interview with the North American champions of the NSL Invitational Cup, Team Nexzil. I have Bitey and Virsel here with us. How you doing, guys?
I am doing really well.
Doing great, thanks.
All right. Well, thanks, guys, for coming here and taking the time to have an interview. I know that I wanted to cover a lot of stuff here in regards to the matches that you guys played in the qualifier and, actually in the cup itself. We'll just kind of go over that and ask you some questions, and should be pretty interesting. So I first wanted to talk about the Invitational Cup. You guys did very well, actually, in the cup itself, right after the qualifiers. So you guys went undefeated, basically the whole time, but not your first match against Mercury, where you went 1-1. Why don't you guys tell me about that? Did you feel that you had like a little bit of a rough start? Did you think that was going to be an indication of the rest of the matches in the cup?
Well, I think when we started out, it was the first truly serious competitive game that we took with that current build 240, which was a very significant change for your skulk movement. So it was like a crash course, and it's changed.
A great deal of, I think the reason that we had such difficulty with that game is it was just so early here. We aren't normally playing it that early in the morning, and most people aren't even awake on that early in the morning on the weekends.
Yeah, yeah, right. So, with that match with Mercury, having that, having gone 1-1, what did you guys think after that match was over, heading into the weekend?
I think there's a good testament as to how good HG was as their Marines, and on top of the inexperience with like how you need to change your skulk play with the way that the new build kind of forced you to. It was just an instantaneous change on the way that the aliens needed to coordinate together, because it used to be that the movement was so sharp and that we were able to react so fast to each other's plays. Sometimes there wouldn't be a countdown or an initiation, word spoken to like make a hit. You would be able to see a guy setting up for a play. You would see him stream in, and his obvious goal, being first in line, was to dance around and take bullets away. But with the new change, you instantly lose your speed and you'd get shot down. And then the rest of you would be like, "Hey, I'm coming in to help," and then they'd get shot down too.
Right. Was that pretty eye-opening for you guys, seeing that happen during the match and going like, oh my god, look how much it has affected play?
Well, you see it during a lot of our alien games. There are just times when it's like, what's he doing? what did he do that for? You know, right into the face of bullets. Get
Yeah.
chopped down.
Exactly. And Versal, what did you think about the changes there?
I think the changes were maybe a bit drastic, and I think more so the reason is just the timing of the patch was a bit unfortunate as far as the tournament was concerned. Doing a big movement adjustment to a basic unit right before a big tournament. It didn't just affect us. I'm sure it affected every team to a great amount. And we just had to refocus and adjust quickly how we were going to play our alien game.
So, I mean, I'm sure we'll continue talking about this as we go through all the different questions we have for you. But in your opinion, as a semi-pro team, do you think this is going to balance out, and do you think teams are going to be able to adjust over the next month or so, leading up to the finals? Are you guys? Do you feel like you're going to be able to adjust your play appropriately so that I know this weekend we saw the vast majority of these games went to the Marine side. Do you think that's going to balance out before the finals?
I think given enough time, as long as no changes, like massive changes, keep coming in, a team can adapt given enough time with the system that is currently in place. But with each update, as long as you keep making more and more changes, it becomes harder to let that adaptation take place.
I agree. It's much easier to get used to small incremental changes than it is to constantly readjust to large sweeping changes.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you guys did amazing in the rest, of the cup, going up against some strong clans: Vetus, Breakfast Club, Cool Clan, Godar, HBZ. Was there a team out there when you saw your lineup that you were like, "Holy heck, I don't want to go up against them until the end"?
Arc.
Okay.
I kind of figured that was gonna come.
I mean, when we look at it, we've always talked about it. We did a lot of behind the curtains talking about, the bracket and like what is the most ideal lineup that we wanted to always do. And it was always to avoid Arc. It was kind of like we didn't want to have to play them. It's not that we weren't afraid that we might or may or may not be able to win. It's just like a team like that, that's your final match. And if you can beat them, then great. There's probably nobody in the world who can really challenge you at this time.
Moving on from just what happened in the cup, I kind of wanted to before we get to that monster of a semifinal match that you had with Sonoman, I wanted to move on to just some general questions here. Just about strategy and gameplay that I think people will be interested in. So, one thing we noticed if we move to, let's just take a map. Obviously, you guys have different strategies, different build orders based on the map that you play. Is that true?
It's very true. We don't just kind of throw people in certain directions. We've talked greatly about how we move and how it affects their team as well as our position.
Right, and one thing we notice is on Summit as Marines, you guys always seem to push Crossroads a lot, and I've watched a lot of matches, and it's not as I haven't seen other teams as overzealous as you guys to going after Crossroads. Why on that map you guys push that hard?
Well, it's something that we've recently been doing. We used to send one to Crossroads to just scout and spot where the skulks were moving. And then we did some experimenting, and we found that if we send more people, we send 2 Marines to Crossroads, that will shut down any sort of rush to the middle, which would happen quite a bit. You would get like 3 skulks that come to the middle. If that guy dies, you're sort of blind where the rest of that group's going. And so everyone kind of has to hold up. Also, if they clear that group, you can build Crossroads, which is much closer to any of the bases than I think people realize. It's pretty easy to defend. And then it gives you a push-off point to attack the enemy base, depending on where your pressure comes from the other side, allowing you to set up dual pressure pretty easy from that point. And they can't just ignore you there. So that's really why we've started putting more people in Crossroads.
I would also say, like, being the guy who usually goes to Crossroads now, it's not hard to claim Cross. If claiming it is just like having your guys in there without being contested, because once you put 2 Marines in Crossroads who they can't get killed, say that you chase off the early pressure, Crossroads is yours. You can drop the RT, and it only takes 50 seconds for it to pay off, or if they say, that there is the one guy on the weaker side, if they say overwhelm him, you can use their opening of the skulks that they use on the other sides to go in and try to push one of their natural expansions. So it's actually a really powerful spot to hold from.
Very cool. So moving on to the next question, one of the other things we noticed is that compared to other teams, you guys tend to go armor 2 before you go weapons 2, which is different from what a lot of teams do. We saw some matches where you guys were even pushing armor 3 before you ever went weapons 2. Is that something that you have, Versal? This question directed towards you. Is that something that you guys talked about beforehand? Is that something that's changed recently with the Skulk movement patch, or what's going on there?
No, we've actually been going armor a little bit earlier than weapons upgrades recently, mainly because we use a lot of forward armories, and our Marines are actually really good about carrying welders and repairing each other. And if you are able to keep your armor high, you'll see a much larger benefit. And I think a lot of teams, not necessarily top teams, but a lot of teams that are playing competitively don't realize that they need to be keeping that armor up. They need to replenish it, because once it falls off, the upgrade's gone. It's basically useless. So it's really strong, and it allows when I'm medpacking Marines, if their armor stays consistently high, it allows me to be more efficient, and thus you have a better economy.
And another thing is just a little numerical point. Armor is actually worth 2 points of HP, and your welder heals about 90 HP per second of armor. So you can, in theory, with a little bit of med support, out DPS most of the life forms just by continuously welding your partner next to you.
What, for you, Versal, differentiates whether you hit armor 3 or weapons 2 first?
I think it depends on the timing of the alien life forms. If they're set really far behind as far as their life forms are, if we've been really good about getting harvesters down, we've delayed the hive, then I will go armor 3 first. I don't see so much of a threat from fades coming out. And if I can get that armor 3, then that just extends our economic gain. We've been really difficult about getting harvesters. They've done a really good job at defending. I know fades are going to be coming soon. I've already got armor 2. I can get armor 3, but I would rather be in a position to maybe take out fades more easily with shotguns and burst damage. Then I'll go for weapons instead of armor.
All right, great. So, guys, I wanted to move over to communication here. So, Versal, are you or Versal or Buddy, who's normally the Marine commander?
It's always Versal.
Yeah, I'm always commanding either side every game.
So then this question kind of goes to you and Buddy as well, but how much communication from the commander is there in regards to your team's movement on the actual map?
We have general flow of way that we do things, especially in the early game, where we'll set up specific locations or movement patterns. And for a lot of the movement that we have on our squads, it's either predetermined or it flows naturally. And for things that don't, or for things that we want to plan ahead for, it's almost always my call. If the people on the field have a suggestion, they'll be like, why don't we do this? And I'll say yes or no instantly, and we just stop there. There's no debate. It's yes or no, we do that, and then it happens. For instance, if they see an opening or something that I might have overlooked, which can happen. And a lot of the communication from the people on the field is mostly about where the enemy positioning is, their movement, things like that. Things that I can't necessarily see or that I might not know or be able to pay attention to.
There's actually kind of a thing that I do as the field player. When I die, it's always to decide, I don't always want to bug Versal, like, okay, Versal, I'm spawning up. I don't want to make him think about where do I want to send Bitey. So there's kind of like this read that you have when you die, you should pull up your map, plain simple. If you don't do that, well, you should start. But then You're going to be able to look at this map and you'll see where your Marines are, where your friendlies are, where the front line should be taking place. You can kind of like draw an imaginary line across the battlefield. And what you need to do as a player is understand what your attack patterns are and what your movement routes are, and then you need to think about which side should I reinforce without having to bug Versal the comm or with whatever he's doing. Because the whole idea is you want to optimize everything towards kind of keeping a forward momentum on the field with as little feedback from the comm, so he can focus on fights, tech, and specific engagements that he wants to get accomplished, rather than always organizing us with micromanaging commands.
I think the needs are pretty easy to assess. The only thing is, if there's multiple engagements going on, then I might miss something, and so they might call out then. Or if they want me to, if they've heard something in the next room that I can't hear, and they're worried they're going to be walking into an ambush, then they'll ask for a scan. Things like that are not uncommon.
So you being the commander on both sides, I'm pretty sure some new players and even some seasoned players would want to know. Do you have any tips, say for a new commander or even a seasoned commander of the way you view things when you jump in that chair?
A lot of the responsibility for intelligence comes from the commander's point of view. And I think a lot of people forget that it's not simply telling your players where to go, it's giving them the information and the tools that they need. You take for granted the fact that you can see the whole map, and you forget that your players don't have access to that unless they're running around with the map open. And even then, it doesn't give them as much information as you might have. So just relaying the information back to your teammates and then giving them the tools to accomplish whatever it is you want them to do, and being very clear and concise about what it is you want them to do. I also notice a lot of commanders, maybe more so in public play than I would say comp play, kind of careless about how they spend resources and what it is they do, and the feeling of needing to spend resources if you start piling them up, getting up to like 50 resources and thinking, oh, I gotta blow this on something, and so you just research something blindly like flamethrowers or something, just thinking because you have to spend these resources, instead of kind of piling them up, maybe using them in a more intelligent way, or just getting ready for when you might have to use that store and just using it as a backup.
So moving on to back into the teamwork as a whole, in terms of teamwork, how important is it to you guys to know exactly how your teammates play? Exactly who's going to go in when, what kind of strategy they're going to go for go for a bite from the back. Are they going to be more direct attack? Knowing your teammates and their tendencies, is that essential to how you guys play as a team?
It's very important as we play as a team, and I think if we go back to those matches on this weekend, the entire alien change threw a lot of that into the woodwork, because a lot of it was nonverbal. I had the ability. I was always the one who would try to charge in, and people started understanding that when I would charge in, it would be an initiation to start an attack, or how to determine when to go in from the front when you have a flanker coming in on the rear. It's really important that you're on the same page for knowing how to coordinate your attacks together.
And has that developed over time significantly? I mean, how much of that has gone from verbal to nonverbal as you've been playing together?
The person who I probably have the best synergy with is the one known as Gliss on our team. You probably have some footage of him, but me and him have played games together for about the last 3 years. So we're like almost completely in tune with like making the same decisions at the same time. And you can see it in our double lurk play, like how well that stuff gets executed. Most of the time we don't talk very much when we do that. I think a lot of people might think like, oh, look at this, they're picking off the same guy at the same time. Look at that, it's beautiful. But in reality, it's actually we just think so in line with each other. We don't need to communicate that kind of point of information.
One other question: when you're practicing, before a match, or even just, if you're at your regular weekly practice, which by the way, do you guys have regular scheduled practices?
Practices, I usually organize like every single event that the team goes through, and kind of practice is like your term of probably like, I guess, drilling together and hanging out with just 5 guys or 6 guys. We don't really accomplish those anymore, because what you really want to look for once you have like a well-established team and everybody knows each other, what you want to start working on is your team synergy, which is, back to the last question. You want to always get as many scrims as you can and just start building up that ability to play off each other in the most efficient way possible.
I think that's important, and I think it's something that people kind of take for granted as far as their team goes. I feel like a lot of teams are looking mostly for someone who can just shoot really well, or has really good fade play. But it's also equally important to have someone that you can rely on as far as being a good team player, knowing how to make nonverbal movements and being really good at coordination with the rest of the team. These things are really important, as much more, I would say, than being necessarily a good shot or a good alien.
How heavy does individual player skill matter in a heavy team game like this? Does it more matter, on the Marines or aliens? obviously the skill level of a player needs to be good, but how heavy is that? Is that during a match?
I can take this question because I've done a lot of competitive play at high levels in multiple games. Like, I never limited myself to one game, and it's always turned out like this. At the lower ends, probably from low to mid to high, like mid-high area, which is like medium, I guess. I should just say medium. Like, aim and personal skill are extremely important. Like, as good as you are on the field, you can probably carry a team to victory by just having two super players able to just decimate everything in your seating area or skill range. But once you start getting up to the very top of the plateau of your ability, the highest level of matches are never decided by a player's individual skill to shoot or perform, and it mostly comes down to how smart that they play. Like, it's all about your intelligence on the field to maximize your ability to win, not just by your skills, but to like put yourself in the situations where your skills can shine even brighter than, say like just a random fight getting ambushed behind the back. You don't always want to be caught like that. You want to try to make the most ideal situations always present themselves to you, the player. And that's what decides those highest level matches. One mistake can literally cost you an entire game.
So, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody, screws up sometimes. When mistakes do happen, how do you guys as a team recover from being set further back than you had anticipated? Is there any particular methodology that you guys use in those moments?
Like, because of the RTS element of this game, I've always figured that the players themselves, when they actually make attacks, they can make mistakes everywhere, but it doesn't matter because you're attacking. The real mistakes come up is when the attack on your side, if you're having to defend and you fail the defense, you get a massive blow to pretty much your whole team. Say that the arms lab went down or a crucial play goes down. And the whole thing is you have to shake it off. And you have to okay, what do I need to do next to get back into the game? And that's kind of where your best teams kind of shine the brightest. Because even when you're dealt a bad hand or you not even dealt it, you dropped your hand or something like that, it's that ability to climb back out of the hole which really dictates who is the best team overall, who can recover from any kind of mistake and make something out of it. It's really important that teams are able to do those kind of things and not be defeated by a setback.
Right. So let's say you are on the defense and let's say you lose your phase gate to Crossroads or something. Obviously you want to go take that back or push somewhere else because it's lost. Who makes that decision? Is Versal as commander just putting his foot down and saying, okay, this is what we're doing instead, this is how we're changing strategy, or is there a quick discussion on the battlefield?
It's almost always my decision about what we're doing as far as mistake correction or adjusting our strategy, dealing with pressure, things like that, because you really do have to deal with it in a way that one person has complete control and say, because you want to limit the amount that you're discussing and debating about what you're going to do. The longer you talk about it, the more you aren't paying attention to what's going on, the longer it takes to make an actual decision, and the more split that everyone is about what they're doing and what they should be doing. So what we try to do is I try to be very concise and quickly react to what's going on and make a decision about how we move forward. It may not always be the 100% ideal situation. I try to make it the most ideal situation, but maybe I make the wrong call. But the thing is, the team has to respond quickly to whatever I'm saying, because we have to make up ground. We have to get something done. We have to get a phase gate back up somewhere. Maybe I want to get a phase gate back up exactly where we had it or at a different room. Regardless of what the team thinks, it has to happen. If you discuss, then you've already lost time and you are setting yourself back.
Awesome. Well, thanks guys for answers to those questions. I'm pretty sure the viewers here are appreciative of that, and also just knowing your guys' viewpoints and trying to get into your guys' heads for strategy and what your guys' views on certain elements in the game is.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed part 1 of that interview with Nexzil. They were really great guys. Part 2 is going to come out very soon. We already have the audio. We're just kind of putting together the scenes and stuff. That'll come out very soon, within 24, 48 hours, and I'll have that up. We talk about the Invitational Cup, their matches. We talk about that massive match with Sonneman that they went through, where they won, then they lost, then they won, then they lost, then it was sudden death. Very, very, very exciting. So we'll get their take on that. And then obviously their take on facing Archaea going into Germany, and what do they think their chances are. So stay tuned for part 2 of Red Dog TV's interview with Nexzil. Thanks, guys.